Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Backlog. This is going to be episode 5, and we are going to be talking about Undertale today. So first, I'm going to introduce our co-hosts. To my far right, I've got Brett.
Hello.
Down, up from the river and on the hill, I've got Daniel.
Hi.
Just above her is Alissa.
Hi.
To my immediate right, we've got Roslyn.
Hey.
And as usual, across the ocean, over the mountain, under the bridge, and across the hill, we've got Adrian.
I'm filled with determination.
I had to be to get through this game, let me tell you. But before I do, this was Brett's game.
Yep.
So, Brett, why don't you tell us a little bit about the game, the developer, and why you chose it?
Yeah, so it's Undertale. I believe the developer is just a one-man show. I can't quite remember the name right now. It escapes me. But
Toby Fox.
yeah, and it actually just celebrated, like I think it released almost a year ago. Like maybe right. Yeah, like I think it was September 20 or 15th last year.
Okay.
So the game's not brand new, but it was fairly new to me. And when it came my turn to pick a title, it's immediately the first game I thought of. Just it kind of another game that's in my backlog that I never got around to playing that seemed interesting. From some reviews that I read about it, it said that, it was a little bit different and it wasn't just your run of the mill kind of standard sort of indie game. So I figured, yeah, let's try it out.
Right on. And we did, didn't we, everybody?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I want to apologize. Daniel, I referred to you as a her when I was introducing you. Not that it matters. I did. But I just want to point out that Daniel, as far as I know, I'm just making this worse, aren't I? I'm going to leave it alone. We're going to drop it.
Yeah, drop it.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as I know.
So that's an awesome explanation, Brett, of why we picked the game and a little bit about the game. So we're going to cover this one in one episode, and we just want to sort of launch into a discussion about the game. Who wants to sort of take the torch and start us off? Is there anyone that is outside of my house that's interested? Perhaps Daniel?
What do you mean?
Just tell us a little bit about the game. Let's start the discussion. What was your experience with Undertale?
Well, for a start, when I first saw this game, I completely wrote it off. I thought it was it just looked really weird and uninteresting to me. It had this sort of Homestuck feel to it, which to me it was a real turn off. I'm not much for Homestuck or anything like that. But since we were chosen to play the game, okay, so I'll try it out and see how it goes. And I got hooked to it pretty fast.
You did.
The game feels a little bit trolly. Like a lot of things that I do seem to have permanent consequences and whatnot. At some point down the line, it's I just felt paranoid about it. And it was the experience was not really something I've ever experienced before. How it feels and everything just felt the feels I got from it. I haven't felt that way about a game in a long time, since the old classic days. So to me, the game just felt really interesting. I really liked it.
That's neat. What about you, Adrian? Can you sort of explain to us what sort of game is this? Pretend I don't know anything about Undertale and you're maybe trying to sell me on it. How would you describe this game?
On the surface, okay, so the first impression that Undertale gives is one of a JRPG. It looks and kind of smells and walks like a JRPG. The one that I most closely tied it to was Earthbound. The main character is a child who's going on an adventure. I mean, there are some fairly big story departures from Earthbound, but the feel and the kind of the simplistic graphics to me spoke very, very much to that game. And this, I guess the story is that you've gone into the underworld where the monsters, years and years ago, the monsters have been banished underground, and you have found an entrance into the underground, and this is the story of you trying to get home. In basically in a nutshell, and the characters that you encounter and the trials that you have to overcome in order to save your soul.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the actual playing of the game. Alissa, you really liked it. Like, what are the nuts and bolts? Again, this is like, if we're explaining to someone who's never played the game before, what can they expect when they turn on Undertale? What are they going to be greeted with?
Yeah, I absolutely love this game. It blew my mind. But anyway, to backtrack a bit, it's very JRPG style. You solve like small, like very simplistic puzzles and befriend some characters, and you have the option of going through different plot lines of either befriending the enemy or the monsters that live in this underworld, or you could kill them. You can kill everyone. You can kill just some of them, and then depending on what you decide, the outcome of the game is different. And then also the game remembers if you do a certain timeline and then restart the game, it will still remember that you did something before, and kind of the things that the characters will say to you change a bit.
I didn't even know that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That didn't happen to me once. Wow.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I read about that happening.
So what, like the description of the game, like when you look at it on Steam or something, it says like it's the tagline for the game is to be friends, the game where you don't have to kill anybody or something like that. So they right off the bat, they kind of give you the suggestion that you shouldn't really go the violence route and try and befriend everyone. So the game mechanics of the battles there's a typical like fighting and options and things like that and running away, but you can also choose certain actions depending on what kind of monster you're fighting, interacting with, and depending on what actions you choose, you could spare the enemy that you're fighting. So like there's like this one monster that has like this fancy hat, and he really wants you to look at his hat and all this stuff. So if you just say you're ignoring his hat and you keep saying you're ignoring it, then eventually he'll just give up, and then you can spare him and no one gets hurt. You walk away and everyone's fine. So the game kind of goes on like that.
Very cool. And just so everybody knows, so the combat in this game is turn-based essentially, and it's going to be what you'd expect, like everybody said, from a traditional sort of JRPG, where you have a list of menu options and you're going to choose from the most suitable ones for your player. But yeah, what is unique is you don't always have to go to combat. Now, I didn't read the Steam store description. I just jumped into this game. So I understood that you could spare monsters because the option was there, but I didn't really find out until much later that it was like a very viable option for the whole game. And that's kind of the charm of this game. We'll talk about it more. Roslyn, besides the turn-based RPG sort of elements, what else is there to this game?
I think that there's a set of characters that you meet along the way that will either like you or not like you, depending on what route you take. And I think that they each had their own unique characteristics. There was the one that sticks out to me the most is that flower.
Chloe.
Yeah.
This is the worst flower I've ever met.
You idiot.
Why? Tell people why.
Of all the flowers you've met.
Of all the flowers that I've ever met in my whole life up until now, in my 30 years of life.
Well, and is that the absolute first character you meet?
Yes.
My recollection is yes.
Yeah. And it's a dick flower.
So what makes it a dick flower? Tell people what.
So at first when you meet it, it's like, oh, let me help you, blah, blah, blah. This is what you do to, play the game.
So he's like a friendly NPC.
At first,
okay.
You think. But then he's like, catch my love petals or whatever.
Wow.
And then they hit you and he's like, haha, I'm killing you.
Right. So he's baiting you. He's trying to trick you into.
Yeah.
Did anyone else not see that coming a mile away? Like that's, I guess, and that's like the first interaction.
I saw it and he just kept on getting angry with me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm telling you that you're supposed to run into these things. Why are you not doing that? And he just got really angry with me and got all, lost his happy cheery facade.
Well, the combat
I was
system
like,
in a regular
okay.
JRPG is more like when they attack, you take damage. But in this one, it's kind of more like a shooter where you're visually trying to avoid the attacks and swooping around. So
Yes.
it's kind of the game teaching you that you're not supposed to get hit by these attacks, but it's also to underscore the fact that Flowey's a dick.
Yeah.
It really set the mood for the,
Well,
the rest of the game.
I really like how they did it with that, where it wasn't just purely turn-based combat. You had something to do while the combat was happening that affected the whole combat, really, right? By dodging attacks and everything, rather than just saying a command that, oh, I dodge or I do magic spell 2 or cast lightning bolt or whatever.
Yeah. What did you, Dan? The combat itself, the actual combat. Can you explain that to listeners? Like Brett said, you're not just choosing something.
When you got the choice of fight or act and item and I guess the last one is mercy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So if you do fight, you get this sort of like little bar that goes across, and depending on where you hit the bar, it determines how much damage you do, and that's basically your turn. But what's more involving is the act, which is essentially almost like in JRPG terms like casting spells, and you're kind of trying to figure out like the weakness of your enemy doing that. But the acts are things like you can pet your enemy,
Pet the dog,
or talk to them, or like encourage them, or something like that. Like basically do little interesting things to try and get them to basically give up fighting. And at that point, you can spare them.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I've got to ask. I'm going to pause everybody here. Did anybody read ahead? Like, was anyone online, read enough reviews to sort of know what to expect from this? Because I didn't, so I avoided sparing quite a bit early on.
Well, as like from the description that I read about befriending monsters, I kind of figured that out later on. I accidentally killed the first boss, and then it was too late by the time I progressed quite a ways, and then I realized that it was actually kind of like a pacifism game. So to get a good ending, it's better to not kill anybody.
Yeah, I kind of had that hint too from a couple of reviews that I saw like on YouTube when I was even first hearing about this game or whatever. That kind of suggested that being a pacifist was more viable, I guess.
Yeah, same for me. I went through when you go through the first dungeon, and Toriel says, "Here's a training dummy, practice on it," and she basically tells you, "Don't hit it." At that point, I was like, "Huh, okay, then I'll try not doing that." And then basically from that on, I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna attack anything at all," and see if I can actually get somewhere with that. And so I did that with the first boss, and was able to spare her and progress the story that way. I'm like, okay, this is a completely viable option. I'm not going to kill anything throughout the entire game and see what happens.
Interesting. It's funny how some people are like predispositioned to that, whereas I was like, I kind of just did 50-50 for no apparent reason. I would attempt to spare them, and then if they put up any sort of resistance to my wiles, my charms, I would just kill them. I would just, because like combat itself was unusual. You had that bar that would go back and forth, and you would try and narrow in on your attack range, but then it would enter this mini game mode, which would have a lot of variety, but you would be dodging attacks. It was sort of a bullet hell experience. And I enjoyed that a lot. So it almost encouraged me to choose combat, because the bullet hell experience had a lot of variety. There was a lot of ingenuity. It kind of reminded me, and I'm pretty sure Adrian and Roz, you guys have both played this, but it had a little bit of a the world ends with you sort of feel to it.
Huh.
Oh, and I know you played that as well, Dan.
I played that too.
Interesting comparison.
Oh, and Alissa. Perfect.
Yeah, I think that...
so, Brett, you're the only loner.
Sorry. I think that the original appearance of being a JRPG. You know, in most JRPGs, you are a psychopath. You go around and you murder everything, and you bust into people's houses and you rummage through their stuff. And you know, this game kind of subverts that. I the first time I pacified a character, I stroked his hair or whatever, and did whatever it is that I needed to spare them. I didn't
Flex.
get any. Yeah, I didn't get any. Yeah, the flexing was my favorite. You don't get any experience. You don't get any experience points, and you don't level up. And it's like, oh, that's weird, but okay. But I guess I don't need to level up because I'm not going to kill anything else for the rest of the game. And I played for most of the rest of the game without killing anything. And that kind of turns it on its head, because that ties in with the story too, right? We begin to find out that no, these guys are monsters, and monsters are supposed to be bad guys, but they're people and they all care for each other. And you kind of find that no, maybe the humans aren't the good guys, and we learn a little bit more as the story progresses that way as well.
Yeah, totally. The game does a good job of sort of doling out the story. That's one of the things I found most impressive, was I actually cared enough about the story to pay attention, and at points in the game where I became frustrated with the combat style or the lack of information I had regarding on whether or not I was supposed to spare or kill monsters, you know, that story really kept me going. It was charming despite my natural resistance to anything cute and charming.
Well, and it kind of hit a point for me too, where, I mean, I don't think it was until we reached the second, I guess, area, which was Snowden, like the snow village, right?
Right.
Yeah. Where you meet a couple new characters. You meet Sans and Papyrus.
My two favorite
and
characters.
You have a whole bunch of interactions with them, and you actually start to care about these characters too. Yeah. Or like you go to the jokes with the shop and the inn just had me like, you go to the shop and you try to sell them stuff, and they're like, well, why would I want to buy your crap? I feel broke. But I mean, that's just reflexive just from playing RPGs. Right. Like, well, I sell off all my old stuff, right? That's what you do, right?
Yeah, totally.
Or you go to the inn and you pay for a night at the inn. And
that was good.
and yeah, you come back and they're like, oh yeah, you look like you're so well rested, but I mean, you're only up there for 2 minutes, so here's your money back. And so and it was kind of just funny moments like that or whatever that kind of actually pulled me into the game, where, you know, it wasn't so much the combat or anything sort of else. It was just kind of the story and the characters and the world, I guess, was what drew me in. Right. Because right when I started, I was really turned off just from like the visual style. Like, because the
8-bit?
Yeah.
Well, not just that it was 8-bit, it was like the color palette. Yeah. I mean, it just, all the colors were all dark and kind of
dark and creepy.
It just didn't look very appealing, right? You know, like usually when you think of something that's got like sort of pixelated graphics, retro style graphics, you think of bright colors and like pastels and stuff. And
chipper.
There's something
I didn't really get that sense, especially at the beginning part of the game. And most of the game didn't really have a whole lot of color and sort of cheer to it with the visuals anyhow.
Yeah, there was a sort of a huge dissonance with the creepiness versus the cuteness factor of the sprites in the atmosphere. I couldn't help but feel uneasy about everything that was around me. And like the first enemy you meet, the first character you meet, Flowey, he basically sets that mood of like weird creepiness to it. And I didn't really feel like, I felt paranoid through most of it until I got to Snowden. And it was the rabbit shopkeep that was like basically the first character I felt like I could trust, because she looked fluffy and everything. And then from then on, it sort of goes on to like, you know, Papyrus basically sealed the deal for me for like the most inhabitants. That, you know, that you learn that the most of the inhabitants are either harmless, incompetent, or just simply mean no harm.
Just like real life, right? Just like the human world.
Yeah, it was like 2 hours in until I realized that Sans was Sans because he's a comic. Right, and that's
Comic
why they
Sans.
called him Comic Sans. I was like, oh, just awful.
Mhm. There was a few groaners in this game. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah. That's also what gives it its charm too.
Yeah, it's true. It does. I mean, and they balance a pretty fine line. They do it effectively. One thing that I found, and I know Alissa, you did too, a real bright spot in this game is the music. Like it's outstanding, isn't it?
Oh yes, it's absolutely amazing. The reason, like, I really liked this game, it appealed to me before Brett even suggested it, because one of my really close friends from my Final Fantasy VI days, this is her absolute favorite game in the whole world, and I didn't want to play it because of the visuals. The black and white just really, really turned me off, so I avoided it for this whole year. But I gave it a shot, and then it shone through because of that. All these like references to past like Super Nintendo RPGs that are just beloved games to me. So I noticed a lot of the music as well was had lots of references to like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI and stuff like that. And I read up on Toby Fox, the creator, and he is a huge fan of this game called Live Alive, which I don't know if you guys have heard of.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Heard of it.
Yeah.
It's this not very well known Squaresoft RPG for Super Famicom, and it was kind of that idea of like taking an RPG and subverting it, not to this degree, but how you start playing as this hero, and he ends up through his choices that he's made, he ends up becoming like the final boss of the game because he thought that the princess needed saving when she didn't, and she didn't want to be saved. She was actually in love with someone else and all this other stuff. So I thought that was really cool. But also that music was really, really influential to a lot of newer games as well. So I feel like Toby Fox knew what he was doing when he was writing the music to this, to Undertale, and even some of the titles of the music tracks are referencing like Chrono Trigger and Live Alive. That was really cool.
Yeah, I
That's
think
super
he
neat.
is.
And
I think he's a composer by trade. I think that before he made this game, he was primarily involved. His involvement in game development was that of a composer.
Awesome.
Yeah, he did a lot of compositions for the webcomic Homestuck.
Ooh.
That's where
Oh,
he
really?
started from. Yeah.
Very cool.
Excellent music. We've been listening to it nonstop at our house. So good.
Is there a soundtrack on the Steam page or?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
And there's his Toby Fox has a music label as well, and he has a few arrangement CDs out for the like fan made arrangement albums.
Wow, that's interesting to me that he's a music composer, because he did make this game pretty much on his own, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As far as everybody knows, and
With the
he's
help of
got-
Temmie Chang.
Sorry?
With the help of a girl named Temmie Chang. Who
Temmie.
The Temmies are named after.
Oh, no way. Okay, you know what? That makes me want to talk a little bit about equipment. One of my favorite things in an RPG is gathering items, min-maxing when possible. And in a game like this, that was one of the first things I looked to was what sort of items could I collect? And I found a weird sort of conflict internally. Like there wasn't a lot of items in the game, but to my surprise, the items didn't just boost your stats. Like depending on the weapons you chose, it would actually change that mini game combat. If you had the ballet shoes, for example, you would get 3 chances at hitting the bullseye. Or if you had the tough gloves, you would be able to attack multiple times. And I really like that. Does anyone here have a favorite item or armor that they want to talk about?
The dog residue was my favorite.
The dog residue?
'Cause it got me through so many different combats. So I guess there is a treasure room
At 2
where
HP at a time?
what's that?
It doesn't
No,
only
those are
heal 2
Temmie
HP.
Flakes.
That's Temmie Flakes.
No, well, I kept on I farmed dog residue to get dog salads that would fully restore my HP.
Dog salad.
Oh yes.
Wait,
the dog
can we
salad.
explain dog residue?
And
Yeah, I think we better.
Yeah, I didn't get very much of it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can explain it. In one of the sections in one of the maps, it was pretty early on, you can get this there's like an artifact. I think you have to play a melody on a piano
Yeah.
to get into this secret room.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then you try and pick up this artifact and it's like, you have too many dogs.
Right.
So then you have to drop the annoying dog that somehow is in your inventory.
That you never picked up. It's just magically appears there because of this. Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah, because it's annoying.
Yeah.
And then it ends up taking the artifact, which I don't think we ever hear from it again, or I didn't anyways.
I didn't.
Nope.
And then in your bag, you have dog residue.
Which is the residue of the annoying dog.
Yeah, and when you use it, your inventory fills up with either dog residue or dog salad.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if you are really careful about it, you can just you have infinite items, and you can even go to a shop and keep selling them and get more and more gold.
Oh, I
Which
didn't
I
know
did that too.
I did
Yeah,
that.
me too.
There's
I did
only
that.
one shop you can sell things at.
Yeah, the Timmy shop.
At Timmy's shop. Oh, let's help her go to college.
Did you?
And
I totally helped her go to college too.
So did I.
So did I.
And then I bought the Temi armor after
I
too.
sure did. I spent an hour trying to get that armor. I refused to go any further.
I'll
That
go full
armor is
disclosure
OP.
here.
Yeah.
I didn't know the armor existed until Roslyn told me. And one of the things that was neat about this game was it was challenging enough that I struggled once in a while.
Mhm.
So near the end, I was getting desperate, and I finally said to Roz, I said, "Tell me how to get this super armor." So I cheated, and I just I bought and sold glasses repeatedly until I had enough money to buy the armor. So
It's
that's on
true.
me.
That
Oh.
was
Well,
that was my patented.
But I think we all had our different methods too, right? Because I mean, just at about every save point, I tried to get as many dog salads as I could because I'm a little rusty at my twitch reflexes and I was dying in a lot of combats. So if I had an item that would restore my health, I might actually win.
Okay, so I have a question then. When I never ate any of the dog salad, but I saw Justin eat a dog salad.
True. And I
it
only got 2 hit points.
Yeah.
It actually varies. Some of them give
Yeah.
you 2. Some of them give you like max.
Sometimes they're like
all
full
that.
of bones and stuff. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
That's weird.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it was pretty
Adrian,
random.
are you?
So I didn't actually rely on it. I counted on like some of the other items that you get that
Yeah.
generate like over 20 hit points in health. So I'm like, okay, I'll just stick with those.
And also, like, because I died so many times, I got a huge discount on the Temi armor, and it actually was just a couple hundred gold for me.
Oh wow! I paid
Wow.
the full
I didn't know that made sense.
It gets cheaper every time you game
Yeah.
over, so it's pretty cool.
I paid the full 1600.
Oh wow!
What?
Yeah.
Mine was 9,000.
Yeah, mine
I
was
don't think-
9,000.
Oh,
when
I
I
don't
first
think I
got
ever
it.
had more than
Oh, no.
1,000 gold.
I'm with you, Adrian.
Yeah, mine was definitely 9,000 and I paid 9,000 for it.
Well, you guys got ripped off.
Yeah, no, yeah, you have to die more.
Yeah.
I just wanted to beat the game.
You gotta suck like me.
I didn't die in any of the combat except for. No, I didn't. I
Oh,
didn't
that's
die.
impressive.
No wonder.
Yeah. So that's
That's one thing that frustrated me is that there's these bosses and stuff that are so difficult to beat for me because I suck. But then you find out later that like for the pacifist route, you can just like give them a donut or something, and then like there's this one
Oh, that's
magical
right.
item where you can just spare them for on your first turn, and that's it for this like crazy hard boss that I died like
Really?
10 times before. Yeah, I noticed that with a few. I played this game a few times through, and so obviously, and so it was really hard the first time, and then I kind of looked up a few little hints here and there, and found out that it's actually pretty easy to beat almost everyone in this game.
Okay, well,
spare them.
I feel like I should. Full disclosure,
Mhm.
I used a walkthrough for like 90% of this game.
Oh wow!
oh shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
Honestly, though, I didn't really enjoy playing it, so I needed something to like make me enjoy it and then get through it so that I could talk about it.
Oh wow.
You got the neutral ending though, right?
I got the
Yeah.
neutral ending because I
Okay.
accidentally killed Toriel in
Right,
the
yeah.
beginning, and I was like, I'm not going back.
There's like some scenes in the true ending route that I think you would absolutely love, and it's like your kind of style that you would like.
I feel like you should send me a link to a YouTube video.
Sure, I will absolutely do that.
Okay, thank you.
And speaking of YouTube, so I played through neutral route because I accidentally killed Toriel, and then I started again and I did true pacifist. And then I wanted to be like see what happens and learn more about the story, so I tried to do genocide, where you kill everything and everything changes so much. And this is after you've like befriended everyone and you've fallen in love with everyone, and so it was just heart wrenching. And like the music changes, everything that people say to you changes. You go to like the Snowden town, the happy Snowden town, and like everyone's gone. There's like a note in the store that says like, please don't hurt my family, and you can like pillage the cash register and stuff like that. Like it's really, really dark. So I tried to get through it. I got to where I had to kill Dino Kid, the little kid.
Aw.
And I was like, nope, not doing this anymore. And so but I really did want to know about what happened at the end. So I YouTubed the rest of it, and it was pretty awesome, but not worth doing the genocide, actually going through it, I'd say.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
but that kind of speaks to something that RPGs never really acknowledge or whatever, right? Or like you're a hero, you're a character or whatever, and you've gone through all this killing, and it doesn't seem to really affect any of them. None of them really have any sort of psychological sort of problems or whatever at the ending of the game. Everything's all happy because they, defeated the big bad evil guy.
Right.
Yeah, every JRPG is populated by psychopaths, man. It's true.
It's the truth, it seems.
Yeah, this was a very unique experience because of that.
It's neat that the NPC characters, like the random encounters, end up being like the NPCs that are in the towns and stuff. So as you kill more and more random encounters, fewer inhabitants are in the towns and stuff. It's really cool. But nope.
So who's got a favorite character or favorite boss? Do we want to kind of talk about some of our favorite characters in the game and why we like them so much?
I think my favorite was actually Toriel. I don't see her on the list there, but
there's a good reason she's not on the list.
Well, it's just like every because she was always saying she was always saying like at that before leaving or whatever, right? I kind of knew a pacifist approach or whatever was supposed to be good or whatever, right? So I absolutely did not want to attack her, did not want to kill her or anything like that. And then, she said, well, you can go, but, you can't come back, right? And then at various points throughout the game, I'm trying to call her, and she's never picking up. I don't know. I was all distraught about it. And it's like, why can't I see Toriel again at all? Like I figured just based on, her being, I guess, the second character you meet, that you'd probably see more of her throughout the game, or at least hear from her or something, right? But yeah, throughout the entire game, it was just like, unless if you get some other endings or whatever, right? But yeah, basically throughout the entire game, you don't really see much of her again. But
I heard that a
calling
dog steals her phone.
Oh yeah, that's right. The annoying dog
didn't actually see that. Yeah, in one of the
calling her in the that room with the artifact, you hear the phone ringing in your inventory.
Oh,
and it's presumed that the annoying dog ate the phone.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning with Toriel, she asks you to stay in one spot for a certain undisclosed amount of time. I never understood that. I ended up walking off after like 30 seconds. Did anyone figure that out?
I think that was another subvertive JRPG thing where you just feel like you have to go forward when they're asking you not to. I think that I didn't stay in there either for very long, but I think that's where you hear that when you phone her phone or something, or she phones you after like 10 minutes or whatever it is, and then you hear like that dog takes the phone away and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just read that somewhere.
I know. I just stormed ahead and kind of ignored her because I was like, I'm here to make a podcast. Not to wait around for her to get back.
I don't have time for you, lady.
I started calling her like a needy child.
Oh, did you?
Can I call you mom?
Yeah, pretty much. You flirt with her first, and then you call her mom.
Oh my god.
Oh dear. So Dan, who was your favorite character? Or
I
boss
would
or whatever?
have to say Undyne's my favorite.
Yay.
Yeah, she's just so cool.
He's the best.
Yeah, especially when you go on a date with her, it's just so funny, like how exaggerated and how energetic she is with all her things. Everything that she does is so over the top. It's just overall, she's just a great character. And she's so strong too, that like, you know, so many people look up to her and stuff like that. But at the same time, she's like, kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah. So she was really interesting and fun. Yeah.
Well, that's a great choice. She scared the shit out of me. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, especially earlier on, you didn't know anything about her, and she was silent, just like you were. Papyrus would be talking to her, and she wouldn't be like, when she was in her suit of armor, she wouldn't actually have any sort of text responses or anything, right? Yeah. It almost made me think, is this another human? That's what I thought at first, that Undyne was actually a human. Because maybe humans can't really talk, or they don't get to have, you know, text boxes or whatever in this world. But
okay, what about you, Alissa? Who was your favorite?
Oh, absolutely, Undyne. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah. The scene with her when you go to her house after you've become friends with her is just one of the best in like any RPG ever. I love that part.
Yeah,
so
pretty
much.
I never became friends with her.
Oh,
I wasn't allowed
Did you
to
not give her water when she was like suffering?
That is correct.
Kill her?
I killed her.
Oh,
yeah, no, I gave her water, but I didn't. I didn't go back and see her or anything. I went all the way to the end of the game.
That's another thing you should probably YouTube, because it's a fantastic scene.
No, I did do that. I was.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, when you guys were giving me grief for playing while you guys were all doing tests. Yeah, I was going through all that other stuff.
That's awesome. One thing I wanted to say about Undyne is, because I peeked and watched Genocide, because you become like the evil entity of the game. You fight when you're fighting Undyne. All the bosses change actually after the game realizes that you're doing this genocide route, and Undyne, it becomes, instead of, it says like you've encountered Undyne or whatever, it says the true heroine appears.
Oh no way!
Yeah, so she's like the hero of the game. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that is quite neat. So Adrian, who was your favorite character in the game?
Yeah, I did give Undyne the water, but I, like Brett, I didn't end up having any further interaction with her. I like Papyrus the best. I'm a particular fan of flawed characters, and just he keeps on struggling, and he just tries so hard, and I just he really struck a chord with me. So I like that idea of him wanting to look up to this big badass and having this brother that looks after him and stuff. He's just so earnest and so genuine.
I think that's a great answer. He was definitely one of my top.
And he's a good date too, hey?
Yeah, he's a good date. He's
He
a cool
tried.
dude.
He tried so hard to like you.
So on that note, Roslyn, who was your favorite?
Nabstabluke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's cute.
He's just a
Oh,
sleepy
sorry.
ghost.
Who's Naps the Blue?
Oh no.
He's the ghost?
The sleepy ghost. He was
cries
like
on you?
sleeping.
Yeah,
I don't think I saw him at all.
He's at the
no, he
ruins. You have to
blocks
fight
your-
him.
Yeah, you have to.
He's like blocking your way.
Oh,
Pretending to sleep.
Yeah.
And then you can go to his house later.
Yeah.
Does he come out of the dummy?
No.
No? Okay.
Oh,
But
yes.
I went to his
do.
house. I went to his house and I was like, this guy is my people. He asked me to lie on the floor with him.
That's right.
And
chill.
like Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever, when we have like a big family dinner, after we're done eating, me and my cousin will usually lay on the ground.
And feel
And
horrible.
I was like, oh, I get it. Yeah.
That's right.
I was like, I get it. I'm going to lay on the ground with you. And then I got up. I was like, oh, that was nice.
He's your spirit animal.
Yeah.
Or spirit.
He was just like kind of blah, whatever. A little down on himself. He's like, you can come visit with me if you want or not, whatever.
That's cute.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to go because I think I'm the only one that's left, right?
Yep.
So Dino Kid was without a doubt my favorite. I'm lucky I didn't have to kill him. I don't think I would have been able to either, Alissa. He tried so hard, and he was always second guessing himself, and he was so self-conscious. And I really just related to him. He was just adorable, but never completely sure of himself. And yeah, he was outstanding. He also looked like one of those dinosaurs from that 90s Fox sitcom. Do you guys remember that? Like
dinosaurs?
Oh, yeah, dinosaurs, right? He looked like one of the dinosaurs from Dinosaurs. So I was all over it. Awesome. So we talked a little bit about the art style. We've talked a bit about the music. We've talked about the gameplay and the story. One thing I think we've gone over well too is the way the game sort of tempts you, right? It gives you options, and there's a right sort of, which I guess would be the pacifist, and a wrong, which would be the genocide. Does anyone want to sort of talk about the end of the game as it sort of explains this reality to the player when you start to realize that XP is not XP and leveling up is not exactly leveling up? How about you, Daniel? Why don't you?
I thought it was an interesting twist, so to speak, because like in typical RPG fashion, it does seem like you're making progress and whatnot, and then when they reveal to you at the end that you're not making progress, but they're counting negative points against you, it was quite a shocker, so to speak. But since I played the pacifist route, it didn't really affect me per se. So I think like it would affect people who went through going neutral or whatever to like when they come to that realization, especially since Flowey sort of makes a suggestion at the very beginning. With like the whole kill or be killed and like, gaining love and XP and stuff like that. And it's like, it just kind of throws it into that kind of perspective.
I think Flowey too, right at the beginning, that's the one part of the game that I don't know if that benefited me when he does his quick turn face. And it left me the whole game. It left me wondering, like, am I a sucker? Am I just going along with this? And I'm going to find out that these guys are all genocidal monsters. Because keep in mind, I didn't read about the game. I went right into it completely blank. So when they explained that to me, I was like, well, it makes sense from what I've experienced so far. But I did feel like the game almost tries to trick you into being aggressive, and you have to go out of your way to be a pacifist.
Really? I found the exact opposite. Like, it seemed to suggest to you a lot of times that, you should go for the non-aggressive route.
And not having experience and not getting any loot. Or I guess you did get loot, but you didn't get experience when you mercied monsters.
Yeah, zero experience.
You get gold.
You got gold. Yeah.
Gold, but no experience.
Yeah.
That didn't concern anyone. That video gamer inside you wasn't like, oh my God, I'm not progressing.
Not really, because it seemed that no matter what happened, I wasn't going to hurt anybody, so it didn't matter how much damage I was going to do. And in terms of defense, every time I got hit, I didn't really take too much damage. It's like survivable. So it's like, if you're good at dodging, you don't need to level up. So you are progressing in terms of your own skill and ability to dodge things.
That's fascinating. I think this could be like a psychopath test. If you put someone in a sensory deprivation room and put them in front of this game without any previous knowledge, and we could judge people in society based on the results.
Well, I think that would just be an interesting test for like kind of sort of I guess gamers and I guess casual gamers or people who don't play games a whole lot or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You give them this game, and because I think a lot of people who have played RPGs or whatever before, they'd probably have no problem just fighting or whatever, right? You fight monsters, that's what you do, right? But somebody who hasn't really played those sort of games before jumps into this game, maybe they would be more inclined to be a pacifist, right? It's hard to really say, but that I guess that would be an interesting sort of experiment, I guess.
That's
I love
20
that
years
this
from now.
game like toys with the gamer's heart, I guess, is like it how you just assume that EXP means experience and things like that. I also feel that like there's times when in the game where you make your choices and go back and or like try and reset or something like that, and then it just remembers what you did, and that kind of like ability to save and reset and those. It's an actual ability that you as a human have in this game, and Floey is the only one that's really aware of that happening. In some cases, Sans kind of can read that you've been through this before or something like that, but for the most part, you're just it's turned the whole like RPG gamer on, subverted the whole concept of it, I feel.
It breaks a lot of fourth wall.
Yeah.
Well, it felt like Floey was really the only character that didn't speak to the player or like the player character in the game, but spoke to you,
The
personally,
gamer,
the one who was playing the game, right? Like I remember him taunting me, saying like, "Oh, you think you're so smart doing all this goody two shoe stuff, but what are you going to do when you don't have that option? When somebody definitely wants to kill you, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You can just kill them. It's easier, right?" So it took me forever to get through the fight with Undyne because I didn't want to kill her, and until I realized that I had to actually run away. And I think even with the final boss too, his name escapes me right now. Asgore. Yeah. The final fight with Asgore too. They even got rid of the mercy button right at the very end, right?
Yeah, he destroys it himself, which I thought was a neat touch.
Yeah, and throughout the entire game, I've never even clicked on the fight option, right? And so finally, at the very end of the game, for the final fight, I actually had to fight and actually cause damage to somebody. And I'm like, is this going to ruin my pacifist ending?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because like, I'm just like, well, no, I want to do it this way, right? But I mean, I actually had to look up a wiki or whatever, right? Like, well, no, you actually have to fight him. And then afterwards, afterwards you can spare him or kill him and
but you can't really spare him. You can attempt to spare him.
You can attempt to spare him, but well, Floey kind of intervenes again, and there's kind of a reveal, right?
Isn't there a way to talk as Asgore down, right? Like if you have, I read that if you have a low love or a zero execution points, if you talk to him 3 times, then it triggers the neutral ending, or the true pacifist ending.
The true ending?
No, the true pacifist ending. I think you still have to beat the game on the neutral ending first.
Yeah,
you do. Yeah.
And then, but then the second time when you encounter him, it's kind of stopped right away. Like someone appears right away to change things.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
But you could talk to him 3 times to get him to lower his attack.
Yes.
Yeah, and
you
that's
can
all
feed
that
him
happens.
the pie too.
Yeah, you can eat the pie in front of him, and he lowers his attacks too.
He gets all nostalgic.
Oh, softy.
Did anybody think that little faux glitch at the end of the game was a little played out when they pretend like your computer's crashed? You've got to restart.
I thought that was cool. Very Kojima.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Only because before I played what was it, Unicorn Game or something like that?
Whoa.
I'm trying to remember.
Unicorn Island, or
Unicorn Island. That's the one.
Island.
It did very similar stuff. So for me, it was kind of like, I know what's going on. I started the game again.
Yeah.
My walkthrough warned me.
Your walkthrough.
I like how Floey like loads and saves states.
Yes,
like
I thought that was
an emulator. That's pretty cool.
That was an interesting choice of the game too, to so drastically change art styles right at the end. Like you've been playing this 8-bit experience, and then all of a sudden they go into it's not
Lovecraft.
Yeah, right. Like this total freak show. It reminded me of like a Sega Dreamcast game I can't put my finger on.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. It was unnerving.
It was colorful.
FMV quality, grainy quality, like sewer sharky kind of look to it.
Yeah, you nailed it, Adrian. Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's just gross.
Did you guys figure out? Did you guys figure out the whole thing with like the VHS room, your character and the past and everything?
Did they get to that? Because most of these people did the neutral.
Yeah, I did the neutral. So
I did the neutral. I got up to the last boss on the True Pacifist, and then I had to drive over here, so I stopped.
You better go finish it.
Yeah, you guys need to
Yeah,
finish it.
you get another dungeon after. So
Oh, really?
and
Oh,
you
so I wasn't even done after that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Well,
Oh,
and there's
interesting.
a
I feel
door
robbed.
early.
Maybe if we play it.
Sorry.
Yeah, the door
There's-
early on.
There's
Yeah.
a door early on, and I didn't figure out how to get back into it.
You have to after the credits roll in the Pacifist ending, you have to avoid all the special thanks credits. If you get
It
hit
does
by
that
one,
bullet hell stuff.
yeah, it's
with
a
the
bullet hell
credits.
stuff. It's pretty much impossible.
Oh, interesting.
If you are able to avoid everything, then the door opens, and I don't really know what's behind it.
Well, because I saw who are those two characters? The Bratty and Caddy. You're right near
love
the
them.
hotel near the end. They had a mysterious key, and I'm like, I bet that's a key for at the start of the game.
Oh,
I
that's a
bought
key
it.
too.
I ran all the way back there, and it says it trolled me too. It was like the you hear the lock click as you fail to put the key into the hole or something like that. Like it was like you hear the lock, yeah, and I was like, "Arr!" I was
The
like.
mysterious key opens the other door next to Napstabluke's
Yeah.
place.
Napstabluke's sister's house.
Yes,
Isn't there just
Oh,
like a
okay.
journal or something in there?
There's 5
Yes.
journals in there. Yeah,
5
Yeah.
Find out
journals,
some stuff.
and they're basically the background of Mettaton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I did read that.
Okay, guys, we're going to start to wind it down. Everyone's going to get a chance to give a final thought here. I'm going to call out the person, and then you're going to give me your final thought. I'm going to start today, which I normally don't do. I tried to stay positive about this game. I did not enjoy it. I could see the appeal, and I could see the charm, and at times the music and the characters did sort of tug at me, but I think, to me, it felt like it was a little too clever for its own good. And that unfortunately got old fast. So I don't expect anyone to agree with me, but those were my feelings on the game. I'm really glad I played it. And it's an incredible accomplishment for Toby, the gentleman who made it very unique and creative with a genre that has, seen a lot of creativity over the decades. So all in all, I'd say give it a shot, but it was not my favorite game so far. So first person that's going to get to rebut that, if they choose or just give their own opinion, is going to be Dan. What did you think, Dan?
Well, for me, I really enjoyed the game. At first, I didn't think I would. Just like I like how the game basically was clever and basically poked fun at the JRPG genre. But what was most appealing for me was definitely the characters. And I didn't think that these little 8-bit character sprites would be so moving emotionally. And like for me, like these types of feelings and things, like it made me cry. And I hadn't cried in a video game since like back in the day with like Lunar 1 or something like that. And that's a long time ago. So for a video game to move someone so emotionally in such a way, it's a rare find. And I found the game very unique in all its dialogue and its manners and stuff. So it's definitely for me a recommended game to play.
Awesome. Roslyn, how about you?
Well, I didn't really enjoy playing it. I can see the appeal, like why some people would really like this game, and it did have some unique and interesting characteristics, but I'm not like compelled to go and play the pacifist ending. I would watch some of the YouTube videos of things that I missed, but I don't really feel like I'm missing that much.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, it's straight to the point. How about you, Adrian?
Well, okay, so I really, really like this game. I didn't enjoy the gameplay specifically, but I think that the writing was very solid. The fact that it presents itself as a JRPG is kind of where I split from it, because I don't think it's a JRPG. I think it's more of a visual novel. It's excellent. It's good for us that we played this after having played Life is Strange, because with that game there were a whole bunch of choices that ostensibly made differences, but really it led to a binary choice at the end of the game. Whereas this one, every choice that you make has implications for further developments in the game and even further developments in future playthroughs. I thought that was really interesting, and just on all levels, from the music and the visual style to the writing and the characters to even the little call outs to old video games. Just loved it. It's a masterclass, and I thought it was really good, even though I didn't particularly enjoy the playing of it, as Roz said.
Yeah, good point.
Great observation, Adrian, especially when you compared it to Life is Strange from our last couple episodes.
Yeah.
So we're going to go Brett and then Alissa. So Brett, what did you think? What are your final thoughts?
I don't have a whole lot more to add. I mean, same sort of thing. I enjoyed the game. More for the characters and the story. I think the kind of the mechanics as I got towards the end sort of started wearing a little thin. But all in all, I thought it was a great experience and a great achievement, and I'd recommend it to anybody.
Nice. Are you happy you picked it?
Yeah, I am.
Good. Alissa, take it away.
I love this game. Yeah, it really blew my mind, but I can see the frustration with like if I had just played this with the neutral, like straight through, killing people once in a while and getting to the neutral ending, I would feel very unsatisfied with it. As I said, I'm not very good at the bullet hell stuff, and I died a lot of the time, but the story and the characters and the music kept propelling me forward, and it just made me want to know more about everything, so I had to stick through it and get to the other endings as well. One thing I wanted to talk about is the possible concept of a fifth wall. I'm not sure if this is an actual thing, but once in a while, the game would have times where it recognizes you as a player, but then also there's, because like so many of us like look stuff up on wiki and like things like that. Like how would we have gotten through this game if that wasn't available? And like those thoughts came to me a lot of the time. And then there's this one part at the very end that's like, because I was watching the genocide thing on YouTube, and it was saying the final boss was saying, "Oh, at least you're courageous enough to actually fight me. There's those people that just watch." And I thought, holy crap, they're like, they can see me even on YouTube. Oh my God. So it was really, that just blew my mind many, many times over. And yes, I was a sobbing mess at the end. So I highly recommend this game to anyone who likes story in a game.
That's awesome. Part of the fun of me playing through it was knowing how much you were enjoying it. Every time I was on Steam, I saw you playing it, and I'm like, she's beat it. What's she doing? So that was very cool. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up episode 5. So the next game has already been picked. I'm going to let Dan introduce it very quickly because I don't know how to say the name.
It's VA11 Hall A.
So Valhalla,
basically.
Valhalla.
Yeah. It's a bartending simulator.
Bartending simulator. I've already started it, and I'm quite enjoying it.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Okay, so guys, if you're listening, we've got more episodes in the past. We've gone through Doom Now, Life is Strange, and Undertale. We'll be doing VA11 Valhalla next episode. Please like, comment, subscribe, whatever you can think of. If you want to get in touch with us, we are on Twitter, and we are on the web at the Backlog Web at Twitter, and thebacklogweb.com on our website, and subscribe on iTunes, blah, blah, blah. Everybody, you're going to get a chance to say goodbye. Let's try and do it all at once. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
See you